person now for many years, and he comes to my classes at one time, and he's always talked about this church and always said how wonderful it is. And now I see exactly what he's talking about. You guys are very welcoming, very accommodating, and I think this is just a really wonderful place to be. I think I would like to come back and visit you guys again. Very nice, very nice. My name is Grady, and I am a spiritual person. I was an ordained minister for many years, and I taught, the Christian faith. But the one thing I found that was really hard for me to accept when I was in the ministry was that they did not embrace the fact that we reincarnate. I've been a medium all my life. I'm a natural-born medium. My mother had what they call the gift, and my grandmother had the gift. And my first experience with crossover spirits was when I was about 2 or 3 years old. My father's mother woke me up, and I didn't know that's what it was at the time. I was woken up, and I was told to go wake my mother up. And I ran to my mother's room, and I was trying to, wake her up, and I was looking for my father. And I smelled smoke, of course. I was a little kid, but I didn't really know what was going on. But what happened was, she woke me up because my father he came home. He owned a restaurant, so he came home late at night, and he smoked cigarettes. He was a chain smoker all his life. And he was smoking a cigarette, fell asleep on the sofa, and the curtains lit up. So she woke me up to make me get my mother up to get us all out of the house, and she basically saved our lives. That was my first experience with ghosts. And all my life, I've had different ghosts come in, different things, different entities that I've encountered. And I found out through all of my, dealing with them, that they sometimes say earthbound. And people have different terms for earthbound. Earthbound means different things to people. I've coined earthbound. For me, earthbound means they stay here for a season. I have found in my understanding of all this that some spirits stay here for a little while, and there's different reasons for that. Some of them stay because they are, they are still attached to this life. They are still here for a reason. Some stay because they have been murdered, or they have a situation they want to resolve. Talking about the July Perry Foundation, let's go to that, because she mentioned that. July Perry was a man who was lynched in the Ocoee area. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Ocoee massacre. I live in Ocoee. And when I first moved there, there was this energy that was behind my house that was like my townhouse I moved in. And there's a lot of, I heard chains rattling, I heard different, singing spiritual hymns, and I thought it was slaves, is what I thought it was. But because I know that I have had to learn how to stop these spirits from interfering with my life, so I said, okay, I'm going to bother with all this. So I erected what I found, what I learned back in my church days, a wall of fire. A wall of fire I put back there. So, okay, I'm going to bother with this. I put a wall of fire. You guys stay over there, I'll stay over here, leave me alone. And about a year later, I have what I call guide. I don't know if you guys are familiar with guides. I have a guide. I'm very close to my guide. My guide said, hey, do you want to know what was behind that wall you erected? And I said, oh yeah, sure. Why not? So then I sat there in my meditation time thinking that something was going to happen. Nothing happened very much. And then about a week later, suddenly I was sitting there meditating, and this spirit walks up. And he had with him a woman and 3 children, like 2 teenage children and a smaller child. And I started conversing with this spirit. And the first thing I always do is I don't like to talk to, if they can't identify themselves, I don't be bothered. Because I don't know if it's good, bad, or whatever. As in life, so in death, I found. So this spirit started talking, and first I said, what is your name? Identify yourself. And he said, July. So I thought, okay, that's probably the month that he died or the month that he was born. Okay, July. So I said, well, what is your name? I need a name. Okay, July is when you're born or when you died. And he said, Perry. So I said, okay, your name's Perry. So I started calling him Mr. Perry. And he started talking to me, and he said that he said, I was not a slave, yet they sought to, but they sure made sure I died. I'm kind of paraphrasing. But they sure made sure I died as a slave. And I thought, okay, So we started talking, and now he has his wife with him and his 3 children. And I said, well, why are you here? What's going on? And he asked me, can I bring him the rest? And I said, sure, absolutely. And he left. Now, I was at the time teaching a mediumship development course. So I thought, well, what a great project for me and my students. We'll just sit here and channel these spirits. And we did. We spent the next, I don't know, maybe a year, talking to all these different spirits. And I would set like maybe a seance type thing. We would call in all these spirits, and we started talking to them. And over time, we were just developing all this information, writing it down, and just had these journals and journals and journals of people that we talked to, and comparing notes and all that, and it was really fun. About a year after that, we discovered that we were sitting down, we were like comparing our notes, and we were like, okay, what is this? And I still thought they were slaves. Because all of the stories, they were horrific, and I'm not going to share everything of those, because I don't want to bring anybody down. But they were horrific stories. So we finally, at the end, and we had this honor system when we were doing this kind of stuff. We don't Google. That's the rule. Don't Google. You just write down what you get. You don't Google it. You just write it down. So at the end of us, finally get to the last spirit, we said, okay, let's start Googling it. Let's start figuring out who we've been talking to. So now we're Googling. And one of my students was like, oh my gosh, the Ocoee Massacre. These are victims of the Ocoee Massacre. We're like, holy Toledo, what? And we had never heard of it. So we had been talking to like 200 victims of the Ocoee Massacre. Well, the reason why they were not at rest, which like I said, how some of my spirits would stay here because of a situation, they were not at rest because the city of Ocoee was celebrating Founders Day on or near the anniversary of the Ocoee Massacre. And they were celebrating it, and they were celebrating with like racist type of things. They were having like Confederate flags waving and all these kind of things. They were just having a big hoopla. And the problem with Founders Day was that founders of the Ocoee were the ones that perpetrated the massacre. So all these spirits were not at rest because they felt like they were celebrating how they killed them every year on the anniversary of their death. So I had to go to the city of Ocoee and make them stop, and it was a big thing that ensued. The mayor of the city of Ocoee, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm just going to. The mayor of the city of Ocoee, his great-grandfather-in-law was Clyde Pounds, who was the one that deputized the mob. So he didn't want to stop celebrating. I had to go all the way to Channel 9, Eyewitness News, and I made a big stink about it. We had a documentary made by Darlene Jones, and I was featured on it. And because everybody was scared of the mayor, I wouldn't talk about it, and I said, I'll talk about it. So they had me featured on that show saying, this is why you don't talk about it, and I made a big deal. Anyway, fast forward to the day, they no longer celebrate Founders Day on or near the anniversary of the Ocoee Massacre. They now celebrate it when it really happened, which is in May, and the mayor hates me. He hates my name. But that's okay, I don't care. I love him. Every time I see him, I give him a big old hug and a kiss, and you just see him just like, you mentioned the name Pam Grady in the city of Ocoee, oh my goodness. But I'm an advocate for victims because my mother was murdered by her husband when she was 48. And I saw it happen before it happened. And I knew what happened. It looked like an accident. And, she too stayed here for a season, and she comes back and talks to me and all that. But she too stayed for a season until I got her murderer convicted of murdering her. She wanted justice for her spirit. I mean, everybody has a right to be who they are, and want to be heard, and want to be seen, and to be known. And when something bad happens to you, of course you want, some people don't. I mean, I had spirits I've seen just go on to whatever is out there, and they don't want to hang around. But many times they want to hang around, they want justice for what happened to them. And my mother did that. And that's what made me get on this quest for being, helping people with that kind of people that have had victims that have been murdered. I worked at the police department a little bit, kind of undercover. I had a couple of friends that were police officers, and I helped them solve a few crimes. I think that's the most rewarding thing that I've done with my gift. That's the one thing I find that gives me the most joy. It's not about doing readings and talking to your foster grandmother. That's fine. That's all fine, whatever. But when I'm able to identify, a victim, identify the person that killed somebody, and to see justice come to light, that is very rewarding for me, and I think that's the main reason I love using my gifts for service. Today I'm going to talk about earthbound spirits. And the reason why I want to talk about earthbound spirits is because, like I said, sometimes they're here for different reasons. Well, earthbound spirits are also here to help us. And lots of people don't know that. They're not just here for a message. Sometimes your loved ones are here because they want to help you with life. And if you don't give them permission to help you, sometimes they can't. We tie their hands. Of course, I have some water. It's okay. But sometimes we tie their hands, and they cannot, our free will gets in the way.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much. I'm just getting a dry mouth. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, so back on topic. I was off topic with this July period thing. All right, so they're supposed to stay for a season, for a reason. Sometimes when I've seen, there's many reasons. I can't even tell you all the reasons why they stay. But I'll give you the top 4. Murder spirits, people that die young. They die young, and people that die and leave children. They tend to stay with the kids. You know, that happens a lot. Or people that, children connect us for whatever reason. A grandmother may say, grandchild has been born, now the grandmother died, you know, now the grandmother wants to stay earthbound and watch that child grow up. People that sometimes have celebrities tend to stay earthbound a lot. I really think they just love the limelight, and they're used to being in this, being seen and being heard. I find that celebrity spirits are the easiest one to talk to. I love, when I taught my mediumship group, we would say, okay, get your favorite dead celebrity, unless, you know, I make her take a picture and put it on a candle, and we light the candle, and we would all sit around and we would say, tell us something that we don't know about you that we can Google and find out. There's so much information about celebrities you can always Google. You know, any random spirit you don't know, you can't validate. But with celebrities, you can always validate. That's the best way to train your mediumship gift, if you ask me. Best way. So, okay, tell me something about you that I don't know that I can Google. And we would sit and talk, and you know, and then we would find different things, and then we would Google it and go, oh my God. Like one time I don't know if anybody knows Vanity, even though Vanity and Prince might be a little, okay. Well, Vanity was his twin flame, I say. When Prince died, maybe about 2 weeks before Prince died, we were doing that, and I had Vanity. Well, I like Vanity, so I had Vanity. I picked Vanity. So we had Vanity, and everybody had their own people. And we all kind of saw her come through, but she kept singing the song. She was saying, "Daddy's home, Daddy's coming home." And we're like, what? That's not even something you would sing. Like, it was an old, we're like, what are you talking about, Daddy's home? And she kept singing this song, Daddy's home, Daddy. And we could not figure out what that was about. It was so odd that I thought, that's some random spirit, that's not Vanity, that's some imposter. Maybe we got, you know, I always put a hedge and have a protective seal. I thought, something must be wrong. I must have let something in by mistake. I thought it was wrong. But we had to give us all these clues. And she said to me, we have the same car. I thought, at the time I had a 2007 Saturn. I went, yeah, right. Okay, sure, we got the same car. So I just knew this was some crazy spirit. Well, after everybody left, you know, we started with Google, so I really started to find out, what does she mean by we have the same car? And I found, it took me about 2 days to find that when she died, amongst the list of her possessions was a 2007 Saturn, gold out, champagne color, just like mine, fully loaded. She had the exact same car I had. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? It was crazy. So then fast forward, and when Prince died, and then everybody, I mean, I got calls first thing in the morning, like, oh my God, you know, I was like, what? That's what she meant by Daddy was coming home. That's what she meant. We're like, oh my God, that was just completely unreal. You know, just crazy. But celebrities, for some reason, I don't know why, they just tend to come and talk and talk and talk. My father had a restaurant. He was in the restaurant business in Chicago. And back in those days, you know, they had celebrities, I guess, not to be so much about race, because I'm not, you know, I don't mean to talk about race so much. But there was, like, back then, black people had to go to certain restaurants. You know, you had to travel, like the Green Book, we had to travel. So he had restaurants, and celebrities would come to the restaurant a lot. And I was a little kid. I'm in there serving, tamales and, and sodas, Sammy Davis Jr. and the Brat Pack and all kind. There's regular people to me and the regular people to us, and I didn't know we had house full of celebrities all the time, all the time. In my book, I've written about a lot of my celebrity encounters, and I found that these spirits that cross over, they have a message, they want to help, and they have a message as well. There's so much wisdom that you can garner from these spirits that have crossed over. There is so much, there's a wealth of wisdom that you can gather, that I'm wise beyond my years just because I listen to what they have to say to me. They may have a different message for you, but they have a special message for me. So I encourage people to have these gifts. Like, anybody here consider themselves a medium? Do you have a medium type gift? Very good, very good. I think all of us really do. Have you ever had a dream of someone that you loved? And that's okay. And that's actually them. That's actually them. They have a message for you, and they have some wisdom for you. And it may seem like it's simple, like it's nothing much. You may think, okay, well, why are they here? But that's them talking to you. And I think that we have to learn to embrace that, more. Learn to embrace that. Learn to accept that our spirits never die. We never die. We are immortal, and we reincarnate and come back over and over and over again. And we are not here to necessarily remember our past lives, although you can, get past life regressions and that kind of thing and connect with your past lives. But we're not really here to live out a life before. We're here to continue on our journey. But it's nice to know that, as we go on through life, we have the things that we are good back then, or the things we had in past lives that we're good at, we're also good at now. We can carry your gifts. Your gifts follow you through centuries. And that's just a wonderful thing to kind of know about these kind of things. Like I remember talking to the ghost of Whitney Houston. And I asked her, you're going to reincarnate. And she said, no. I said, well, why not? And she said, because I can't lose this voice. And I want to be a regular person. And if I come back with this voice, I'm going to be a superstar again. I don't want to do that. I thought, give me that voice. I wouldn't care at all. I wish I could sing. Oh, my gosh, I wish I could sing. But, that's what her spirit, that's her journey. That's how she feels. She doesn't really want to come. Maybe she'll go through the process of whatever happens. I don't know anything about what happens in that dimension. Maybe she, burns that off, and she goes through some kind of a healing process in that dimension and decides to come back, and maybe her life would be better at that time. I don't really know what happens at that point. I just know that's what she's telling me, and I thought, oh, man, you poor thing, come back with that voice. Please, 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 please come back with that voice. But we all have our journey. We all have our things that we are going to go through, and all these things that we are going to be. And everybody has, I tell people all the time, I said, everybody has a right to be just who they are. I'm an administrator at a nursing home, assisted living nursing home. And we have all these different personalities and all these different things we've got to deal with. And I tell my girls all the time, they said, oh, Miss So-and-so so hard to deal with, Mr. So-and-so so hard to deal with. I say, you know what, though? You got to find a way to figure out how to get to them. Because everybody has a right to be just who they are, even if they're a jerk. You got to unjerk the jerk. You have to figure out a way to unjerk them, figure out a way to communicate, figure out a way to let them be who they are without it affecting you. Be who you are, be who they are. And the only religion that we should ever practice, in my opinion, is love. And that's what I tell people all the time. My only religion is love. Now, I did Christianity for many, many years, and I tried to fit in that vein. And I just found that the only thing we have to understand is that love is all you need. No matter who you are, no matter what you are, love is all you really need to be. Okay, I think that we'll talk about one other thing. One other thing here. What was it? Oh, as in life, as in death, right? So I believe that as spirits, we're on this continuum journey to become a better person. I tell people that have this gift or that are getting any message from crossover spirits, judge the spirit. Always validate. Always, because they are going to validate. They're a human spirit. They had a human existence. I mean, they had a name, had an address, date of birth, date of death. They had something they can validate. Relatives, they can validate. Make them validate. If they don't validate, dismiss them, because you don't need to talk to them. you don't want to know, because there are spirits that will try to trick you, and spirits that are out for, bad things sometimes. So you have to validate. You can't validate, dismiss it, and don't ask any more questions. But when they validate, continue to talk and find out more about them. But as in life, so in death. So if you were a serial killer in life, you might not want to talk to Ted Bundy, unless you just want to find information about what he did and why. Unless you're a detective, you might not want to talk to Ted Bundy. You might not want to talk to somebody that you know is evil, unless that's what you're into. But if they were a good person in life, they're going to be a good person in death. We don't necessarily change, and we don't get this whole feeling that you may become some kind of angel. That is not necessarily what happens. We are who we are, and if you are a good person, and while you're on this journey, before we cross over into that next dimension, it is our job to become the best person that we possibly can be, so that when we are moving to the next level, we can be something different. We can become something different than what we are. So that's basically all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for having me here today. And if you have any questions about this journey of being, being medium type things, let me know. I do have classes I teach, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.